Awkward. Welcome, everybody. Oh my God, my voice is still gone from the Jags game on what is it, Sunday, 2 days ago. Welcome, everybody, to episode 16 of the SimStation Internet Football Podcast. I'm your host, Travioli. Still in the playoffs, buggers.
I don't want to talk about it.
And my very excited, enthused co-host today is Wyatt.
I mean, I was very excited and enthused at the Jags game, but then I saw my fantasy team, and I scored third in the playoffs, and I still lost because Biz just decided to go ham. So that was pog.
You know, you bring up your enthusiasm at the Jags game.
Yeah, well, let's move on.
Never forget who wanted to leave halfway through the third quarter. Anyways, we had three seed upsets, just like last year. Somehow, only two upper seeds have made it through in 2 years. That's so sad.
Yep. That's fantasy football.
So this week we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to break down each game that happened. We're going to give a stud and a dud from each matchup. We'll just go through and talk about how it happened. We'll start with me versus Steele, just because it's first on my list. Steele scored... I believe Steele scored 6th. I scored 5th. Yeah, yep. It was 108 to 97.
Pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, this is. It would have been close if two of our other matchups weren't within 2 points.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one was pretty good. I mean, obviously Kirk Cousins coming back. He had like 35 passing yards he had 45 passing yards in the first half and ended with 460. Really enjoyable time. We also had Zay Jones, who is my stud of the week for this matchup. I mean,
oh yeah, same.
Dude was on fire. 6 catches, 3 touchdowns.
Dude, he's a beast. But dude, Kirk Cousins went into halftime with negative fantasy points and ended with 32.5.
I saw that and I thought I was losing. I was like, I'm done. It's game. I literally thought I was doomed.
If the rest of his team didn't just suck except for Devontae Smith, then you probably would have been doomed. But here we are.
Yeah, listen. Speaking of, who's your dud of the week? Because there's a lot of options here.
I mean, I just put Freiermuth because he got 0. But also Jamal Williams only got 33 yards. So that hurt him a lot. He's been propelling Steele into the playoffs and let him down.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many options here. Devonta Adams with 4.8 is just, he had 28 yards. Like, what, bro, you're like...
And they scored 30 points.
0. Dude, Matt Collins, Keelan Cole the third, whatever his fucking name is.
That dude's foot was definitely on the line, by the way. That was so crazy.
How did they review that? They're like,
yeah, that's
100% in. 100%.
And they confirmed it. They didn't even say stands. They said confirmed.
Oh, God. Dude, the refs are so fucking terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, Devonta Adams, Freiermuth, Jamal Williams, Mark Andrews, although he's been on a pretty big slide without Lamar in peak shape.
Hey, I'll give an honorable dud mention to Justin Tucker because he missed 2 field goals in a game for the first time since 2018.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, you can't really blame the dude because he never.
Yeah.
He'd have to miss like 100 straight field goals to be the second most accurate kicker of all time.
That's insane.
Yeah. So dude gets a pass, I guess, but it definitely did not help Steele. Although 2 field goals, it couldn't have helped Steele win with just those 2. But yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess I got a little lucky because I was like 5th in scoring. But at the same time, 5th to 6th was 12 points. 5th to 2nd was 2 points. 2.08 to be exact. So it's like, I don't feel that lucky.
It was pretty close.
Yeah.
Biz.
Yeah. The nice thing is every team was competitive this week. There was no Cam from last year.
Yeah.
I think I posted last year only 2 teams adjusted for PPR got above 95 points, and this year all 8 did. So it was like it actually felt like a decent matchup.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we'll go on to the one that came down literally to the wire.
Oh my
Beans
gosh.
versus Reeves in the 4-5
Oh,
matchup.
Lord.
Beans needed 10 points from her defense. She got 11. That's the second time in 4 weeks that Reeves has lost to Beans' defense.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, what do you like?
Yeah,
What's your thoughts here?
I mean, the only two really actual studs in this matchup were T-Law with 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Dalvin. And I mean, Dalvin, I feel like played a fine game, but it didn't really have a whole lot of fantasy points until that screen pass for a touchdown. And yeah, he scored 25. So
yeah, this one was so weird too. It's like Beans has been playing this strategy of just like waiver wire defenses, and at some point it's got to bite her in the ass. You'd think.
you would think.
Like, she pretty much she had to pick between Green Bay and Kansas City this week, and like if she picked Kansas City against Houston, she would have
lost
by a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe she can keep it going. Who knows? I mean, that play by Dalvin Cook, he literally dodged like 8 tacklers. So
that was
insane. Him the stud just because that shit was crazy, and he single-handedly kept Reeves in this game.
And the Vikings in that game. That game was actually crazy to watch.
Now, dud candidates, there
are plenty. I mean, the obvious one is Miles Sanders. He only got 1.4. He had a fumble. He had a negative 13-yard reception, which I don't know how that happened, but I guess it did. Yeah, he had 1.4 points from a guy who's been pretty good for most of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the obvious one. We did see a few star players get like mediocre performances, primarily Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs. Both did not eclipse 9 points despite being Joe Mixon's not incredible, but he's pretty solid.
And D-Hop only got 9.
Yeah, but dude,
he had Trace McSorley
so bad. He is so unbelievably bad.
He is.
But my dud this week was Justin Herbert. The Tennessee defense has been dog shit.
Oh yeah,
all year, pretty much. But really, like the last few weeks. I mean, the Jags just lit them up.
That was supposed to be like a smash play. Like he's going to get 30 points guaranteed. He has all of his weapons. And then he just doesn't throw a touchdown and throws 2 picks. And I'm just like,
I get 300. And to be fair, one of those picks was insane.
Dude, that was one of the best picks ever.
That shit was crazy. But still, it's just, yeah, it was just really disappointing. I mean, obviously the quarterback canyon is like one of the biggest things of this matchup.
Yep.
An 18-point difference at quarterback, essentially.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my dud of the week. Just because.
Oh yeah, going into Sunday night, or after we saw that Waddle got 19 and then McLaurin only got 10, it was looking like Beans' roster decision there was going to lose her the week, and then her defense clutched it out just barely. And Reeves left a few points on the bench with running backs, AJ Dillon and B-Rob, that both would have won. But it happens.
Yeah, I think DeAndre Hopkins would have been better with Colt McCoy. He's not great, but he's a lot better than whatever the fuck I saw from Trace McSorley. Yeah, it was a rough one for Reeves. I understand his frustration.
Same.
He was right there too. But let's move on to matchup number 3, and this is where I have Wyatt versus
the blowout.
The biggest blowout of the week, despite it being the highest scoring team versus the third highest scoring team. Biz got a little bit of the 7th seed magic and scored 163 in a playoff game.
Yeah. Well,
I was highest last year in the first round of the playoffs with adjusted for PPR was 105. And she scored 163.
I mean, she had 2 players have their best game of the season, and no players on her team had a bad game. So I didn't have a chance.
I saw George Kittle. We were playing Mahjong when George Kittle popped off, but I was like, Tyler Lockett didn't get a touchdown. Like, it's winnable potentially.
Yeah, I definitely could have won if fucking Jerick McKinnon just would have stopped being a god, I would have had a chance, but he was a god.
Yeah, and like Dak, I feel like didn't even play that well. He just got a lot of fantasy points. I don't know, maybe at least being in the game, maybe all the Cowboys fans behind me being like, "Oh, if we had Trevor Lawrence, we'd win the Super Bowl." Maybe all them just kind of deflated my opinion of him.
Yeah.
Derek Carr throwing a pick six right to the defender on the 10-yard line was also not great for you.
Well,
yeah, I'm terrified of this team. Absolutely fucking terrified.
Yeah, she has a very, very good team. But for stud of the matchup, just for my boy, because he was my only good player the whole year, I'm giving it Jalen Hurts. And he scored the most. So, but it honestly should be Jerick McKinnon because that is going to be what wins for the championship if she wins.
Mm-hmm. Jerick McKinnon. I think George Kittle having this huge comeback game was really good for him too. Like it's only 23, but in 4 of the last 5 weeks, he's failed to eclipse 5 points.
And it's partially the matchup because Seattle has been terrible against tight end the whole year. So we'll see if it can repeat next week. I don't know who he plays.
The play? Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Whatever, fuck it. Yeah, I mean, I think this. Yeah,
we'll see it in the preview.
This one's hard because, like, I feel like your team did pretty well. I mean, outside of Deontay Foreman, who's the obvious dud.
9 yards, poggers.
Yeah. I don't really think there was another bad player in here. I mean, I guess the Kansas City defense could arguably be your other dud.
Yeah, I should have played Denver, but it wouldn't have made a difference anyways.
Yeah. And again, you didn't know that
Houston
was get concussed on the first play, and that Houston was just going to
be competent somehow.
Yeah. I don't know. This one happens. It's so hard to give any analysis here because it's like, well, it wasn't that close, but you didn't do badly, so it's like,
First round exit for your boy again. See you next year.
Add this to the list of Christmas traditions and our trivia game because half those fucking trivia questions were asked.
Oh my god, those were terrible.
Hey, anyone seen a Christmas movie starring Sarah Jessica Parker from 2007? Guess who hasn't? Me, you, everyone. Anyways,
same.
I don't even know. Did my voice even pick up there? It was like a pure squeak. Okay, that's good. If you heard it, I assume it's in there. This is a very cohesive and planned out and
very professional.
Yeah, of course, the highest quality. All right, our final matchup: Sharks versus Banglewood, separated by
Lord,
separated by 1.6 points. Which
oh my god, that's insane.
Somehow wasn't the closest matchup because reason being were 1.1. Yeah, this one is weird. This is another weird one. This is, again, Banglewood's team had a really good week. And
dude, he was literally gonna win. And then Ramondre was just like, yeah, nah. Sharks winning.
Well, it's like, it makes sense, right? The Raiders played pre-that.
Yeah.
And then the Patriots ran the ball.
Just to take it to overtime, right?
Yeah.
They just
Myers did his thing. Yeah. But yeah, it's like he got the 20 yards off the run and then lateraled it. So it counted there as 20 or 30 yards. It counted the 20 or 30 yards, even though they lost the game on that play. It's like
that's so
weird.
Those
annoying things where fantasy and real football don't coincide, and it just kind of pisses me off sometimes. But whatever. Yeah. Ramondre Stevenson was fucking sick that day too, so he's a huge reason Turksy pulled
that
it
is
out.
True. Also, I will say that Banglewood should have stuck to his Miami guns and played Mostert, and he would have won. That's the reason he lost. He didn't stick to Miami. Come on.
Well, they didn't rule out JWJ until the start of the game.
Yeah,
so
fair.
He probably wasn't expecting that. I mean, he follows Dolphins noise more than most of us do. And Chris Olave got hurt.
Yeah.
Mid-game, which did not, right? And obviously, it's like one catch literally swings this game.
Yeah.
So,
it's tough.
Yeah. Fantasy just is like that sometimes. And Alex doesn't have a dud, right? Because
I mean, I guess Olave because he's injured.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I guess we should say who the stud is first.
it's Josh Allen.
It's Josh Allen. 36 points is just crazy.
He had 4 passing touchdowns and 300 passing yards, and then 77 rush yards.
Another
Jesus.
matchup where one quarterback just completely outmatched the other in fantasy points, and I don't know. It happened in all 4 games actually.
Yeah.
Except 2 lost and 2 won. So I guess this literally means nothing. It just
True.
happened. Love that in fantasy. Duds of the week. Who is your dud? I mean, you said Chris Olave, I guess.
Well, that was for Banglewood, but for Shark Seed, Dalton Schultz had 2 catches for 15 yards, and Rashad White had 4.5 points. So it's weird because she had a bunch of low scoring players, but then Josh Allen scored 36, Stevenson scored 24, and James Conner scored 16.5. So she got like all of her points from 3 players.
Yeah. And then like Banglewood's the exact opposite, where he had no player hit over 20, but 7 of 9 hit over 10.
Yeah.
And Chris Olave could have if he didn't get hurt. So it's just like, I don't know. One of my lessons from fantasy this year, I feel like, is like just pick boom or bust players, and like if you lose, like whatever. And then if you win, you can actually like win big.
Yep.
And that's kind of what Sharksy got with Josh. I mean, mainly with Josh Allen. Ramondre Stevens has been more consistent, but like.
And Gabe Davis is the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah.
Alex, he doesn't have like a lot of pop off potential. I mean, Evan Ingram scored 30 last week, so I guess that counts. But
that's like a one time. That's never going to happen again.
Yeah, I mean, and Tyreek can pop off, obviously. But
he's also really consistent.
Yeah, and so it's like he doesn't really have that guy that's going to like go out and win you your fantasy game.
Yeah,
by himself. Yeah. So we had 4 pretty good matchups. I don't even remember who we said for studs and duds for like any of these. The last 17 minutes have been a complete blur. So we're gonna move on.
Yep.
To week 16, we don't really have a topic because like people aren't paying that much attention to fantasy anymore unless you're in the top 4. Realistically, it's just how it is.
So we're just gonna preview them.
Yeah.
Give our predictions.
We'll start with Beans versus Sharksy, the 5-6 matchup.
Juicer.
Obviously, haven't been paying attention. The playoffs do get reseeded by, first place or highest seed will play lowest seed, and middle 2 play each other.
Yeah.
So even though there's a fucking piece of hair that's floating, and it's constantly right here, and I keep every time it gets off camera, I'm like, get the fuck out of the air. Okay. Attention span.
Yes.
This matchup is currently projected 0.07 difference.
That's kind of close. A little bit.
So we could be in for another stressful weekend. I mean, what sticks out to you here?
I mean, last week it seemed like T-Law had a bad matchup against Dallas. This week seems like he has an even worse matchup against the Jets, especially with it's going to be really cold and really rainy. So that could play a huge factor into this. And then on the other side, Josh Allen plays Chicago, and their defense is bad. So that there might be a large QB discrepancy in this matchup.
We'll say Josh Allen, or the Bears defense is much worse against the run, if I remember the stats. And they do give up a lot of fantasy points to quarterbacks, but that's primarily because of running quarterback. Jalen Hurts got 3 rushing touchdowns and no passing touchdowns.
Yep.
I think this week. So it is I could easily see them actually trying to run the ball, use Devin Singletary as they get ready for the playoffs. Give Josh Allen kind of a break because he does have that lingering elbow injury.
Yeah.
So I do think Josh Allen's a pretty big boomer bust. At the same time, could you see 75 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Probably. I mean, and then Beans has got a few hard matchups with Sanders against Dallas is not the best. Mixon against New England is pretty bad. But then I think the 2 key players for Beans this week that could score a lot are Kelsey. He's against Seattle. Like I said earlier, they're really bad against tight ends. And then Pacheco in the same matchup. if McKinnon doesn't get literally everything again, he could score a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Pacheco's been like consistent over the last few weeks. I think he has like 600 yards in the last 6 games, which is pretty good. But I think they're learning to use McKinnon more and more.
And McKinnon gets like all the pass work. Like Pacheco will get like 15 carries a game, but that's about it.
Yeah. I don't know, because the Kansas City defense also kind of blows. So this could end up being like a shootout.
Yeah.
Which is really scary for Pacheco because that's not the game he wants to be in.
True.
That is the game Travis Kelce wants to be in. So that's a really good sign.
I mean, and then looking at the other side, Amari Cooper's against New Orleans. They've got a lot of their defensive starters back, like Marshawn Lattimore's back. James Conner against Tampa.
Bay, yeah. Not a good matchup.
Dalton Schultz against Philly is not great. So there's some good and bad on both sides, I think.
Yeah, these projections seem kind of high for Beans. I'm not going to lie. I think she really needs Josh Allen to struggle.
Yeah. Imagine he gets benched because they're close to playoffs and pretty much have the division locked up.
I mean, and this could be like they score a bunch early and
then he like sits the half.
Yeah, he sits the half. I'm serious. I mean, it easily could be.
Definitely could be.
This would be a week you want to have. I mean, she does have James Cook. Maybe she decides like play him over Rashad White or someone.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough.
Who are you picking?
I'm picking Beans. Beans supremacy. Travis Kelce's going to go off against the Seattle tight end defense. And I got faith in my boy T-Law.
I think I'm going to take... I'm going to take Sharksy, just so we can kind of square off. I literally have no idea.
It's so close.
I don't know. I kind of think these projections are a little high for both.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the chance that I think Sharksy's team, which with the Gabe Davis, Josh Allen stack, has a little more like explosive potential. Plus, Tampa Bay defense versus Arizona is the last final match, or the other matchup we kind of forgot to mention. That's really fucking good.
True.
Because especially if Trace McSorley starts.
Yeah, he's pretty bad.
He's pretty ass. All right, yeah. So I'm gonna pick Sharksy. I don't fucking know who's gonna win this. Let's just go on to the other one because I'm gonna change. I'm gonna flip flop like 8 times what they say on this matchup anymore. The other matchup is me versus Biz.
She currently has Lockett in the lineup and will probably switch in T. Higgins.
I would assume she is going to switch in T. Higgins for the entire Lockett who's not playing.
Yeah.
That'd be a good guess. I guess she could go Ayuk.
So either way, she's going to be projected to win by a little bit.
Here's my question for you. Who do you start at quarterback if you're...
Dude, I was looking at this. I honestly think I would start Jared Goff. Because, I mean, Goff's been not as good when he plays in away games, but it's against Carolina and their defense has not been great, and Dak is against Philly and their defense is great. So it's tough.
Yeah, I was looking at this earlier. I was like, I don't know who she starts. I have no clue.
That is a really tough decision.
My inclination would be Goff as well, just because the Philly defense is such a hard matchup. I think outside of the Niners defense, they're like clearly number 1.
Yeah.
Or I guess number 2. Clear number 2. Yeah, I think it's going to be... I think her team really kind of does depend on Jerick McKinnon at this point.
Yeah.
He's the biggest X factor. If the Chiefs get ahead early and just start riding with Pacheco the whole game, then she's probably fucked. Unless JJ goes crazy or something. I don't know.
Which is possible. He's known to do that.
I mean, the Giants did really well against McLaurin.
Yeah, that's true.
The Washington play call also sucks. But
Yeah, I was about to say, they just didn't throw him the ball except for one drive. I watched most of that game, and I was like, what is happening?
yeah, I do have a question mark with Juju's position because Seattle's pass defense has actually been pretty good. And, like, I thought about playing Drake London, but Desmond Ridder kind of blows.
Yeah.
So he's kind of not really playable.
And Baltimore's defense isn't terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have a somewhat tough QB decision as well.
Dude. They're so fucking bad.
Oh, man.
They're so bad. I don't know. Arizona's really bad.
Yeah, they are. They're in full tank mode.
And so, like, I kind of want to just play Brady. But
that's probably the right decision.
I'm going to be deciding pretty much everyone besides Devonta Adams, Jacobs, and McCaffrey, and Zay Jones at the end of the week. I don't know.
It also says the forecast for the Raiders-Pittsburgh game is a high of 9 degrees with sleet. So that could play a factor.
Yeah, it could play a factor. You're right. You're right about that one. Pittsburgh's really bad against the pass too, so that's kind of where you want to exploit them. Their run defense is not great, but it's not terrible. It's a lot better than their pass defense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think my team has a higher floor. Her team has a higher ceiling.
I would agree. And I'm going to have to pick Biz in this one.
I'm also picking Biz. Her team terrifies me.
It just, I don't, it's so weird because I feel like I remember us earlier in the season saying her team was so bad, and now it just looks so good. I'm like, what happened?
It's literally J.K. Dobbins finally started playing again, and Jerick McKinnon is like a running back one now, apparently.
And Kittle's healthy, I guess.
Yeah, I think she could win this game without like a good Kittle game, though. I don't know. Also, apparently Washington gives up the fewest points to tight end in the entire NFL. So that's not a great sign for George Kittle. But we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I think if Biz wins, she's probably going to score like 125. If she loses, she's probably going to score like 80. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just thinking wrong. I don't know.
I would agree.
Bet. That's it. That's episode 16. Really quality, really short. Hopefully it gets you through your drive to work. Whoever's listening to this, or I don't know. Why do you listen to this still? This shit blows.
We're almost done.
Yeah. Podcast, dud. Yeah, I think we'll be. I don't know what the plan is for the rest of the playoffs. We've said this every week because, like, I don't know.
Because we got bailed on.
We may be back.
Let it go.
Yeah, we did get bailed on. We may be back. We may not be back. If we're not back, see you next season, maybe.
Poggers.
If we are back, see you next week. Bye-bye.